Kana knew something was wrong when she saw her house ahead. Her mother had always set a lantern outside after sunset. It was usually so that Hiroto could find his way back home after drinking most of the night. The lantern was laying on the ground, broken, and the front door was ajar. The ominous feeling Kana had felt moments ago returned. She had never felt this way before this evening. Every fiber of her being told her something was wrong. She hastened towards her house and walked in, and she smelled it before she saw the streaks on the floor. Blood.
"Mother?"
Kana's voice wavered. She barely heard the old man clanging his way inside and taking his place beside her. She heard a gurgling sound, and her heart leapt. "Let me!" The old man hopped to the side, and she heard the flick of a match. Dim orange light filled the room, and that was when Kana felt her world come crashing down. "Mother!" She ran to Azumi, who was sprawled in the corner of the room, lying in a pool of blood. "Kana," she gasped. He said he killed you."
"Father did this to you?"
Kana tried to press down on the stomach wound to stop the bleeding, but then saw the wound on her chest that was much deeper.
I can't stop it.
She turned to her companion.
"Help me."
The old man shook his head sadly. "I cannot."
"You have to. I know you can. Use your magic."
The old man looked at her with pity. "My powers are diminishing. I use them to protect you from the Hachishaku-sama. I don't have enough magic to help your mother. I'm sorry." Kana wailed as she tried to use her hands futilely to stop the bleeding.
"I'll kill him. He had no right to do this to you. How could he do this to you? He's supposed to be your husband and protect you. He's my father, and he tried to kill me. I will never forgive him."
Azumi grabbed Kana's hand.
"He's not your father."
Kana felt her heart sink. She felt like she had been struck.
"Listen to me,"
Azumi gasped. "You are the Emperor's daughter. He..." "You must save your breath," the old man quickly said. "Do not give yourself more pain."
"This cannot be true," Kana wept. "I told him tonight. That's why he did this to me." "Mother, the Emperor threw me out when he found out I was having you."
The old man feebly put his hand on Kana.
"I think we should call for help."
Kana barely paid attention to the old man.
"How dare he? He will pay for mistreating you. Hiroto will pay too. They will both suffer for what they did."
Azumi nodded slowly before her eyes flickered close. Kana could feel the life leaving her mother's body. She wailed when her mother passed away, clutching her hand and wishing she could bring her back to life. Toshihiro felt sympathy for Kana. It was truly sad that the girl had to face such tragedy, but he hadn't wanted Kana to find out her origins just yet. The more she learned about her heritage, chances were great she would learn about her powerful bloodline. Toshihiro had yet to determine how much power Kana had in the first place. He could sense the power in her, but it was latent. And it was power he wanted for himself. He was going to siphon it from her without her even realizing it. Then he heard a slithering sound and sighed. He was probably not the only one who could sense her powers. It seemed the yokai in her hometown could sense her too. He had to take her away from here. Perhaps if she was away from the place she was born, the yokai might not sense her. Also, he had to do something about her scar.
"What's that sound?" Kana asked.
Toshihiro pointed up. Kana followed his finger and gasped. From a hole in the ceiling, a woman with long hair and a long tongue slithered out. Her sickly yellow eyes immediately set on Kana, and her tongue ran across her pointed teeth.
"What is that?" Kana asked, taking a step back.
"Tenjo Kudari. She has come for you." Kana took another step back as the Tenjo Kudari crept closer to her. Her hands turned backwards, and she chuckled as she moved forwards, making a sickly slapping sound against the floorboards. "Run," her companion told her gravely.
"My mother. I need to give her a proper funeral."
Tenjo Kudari suddenly paused and sniffed the air. She came to a stop beside Azumi's corpse and sniffed, then lapped at Azumi's face gingerly. She uttered a low chuckle and then opened her mouth wide. Kana gasped and then screamed as Tenjo Kudari began to swallow Azumi whole. Kana heard the crunch of bones and felt her stomach churn.
Make her stop! Do something!
The old man turned to her sharply. I can't! Run, Kana! Run! Kana watched, frozen, as her mother was wholly swallowed by the Tenjo Kudari. When the creature was done, she smacked her lips and then used her long tongue to lick the blood off the floor. Kana continued to watch in horror, feeling numb. The last of the droplets of blood were cleaned, and Tenjo Kudari regarded Kana with a predatory gleam in her eyes once more. She moved forward, and Kana finally found the strength to move. She turned on her heels and ran as fast as she could. She could hear the wind and see the sun's gradual ascent and the dusty road ahead. She kept running, even as her feet hurt and her chest burned. Eventually, she reached the riverbanks and stumbled forward. She fell face first and felt the breath get knocked out of her. Kana let out a cry and pulled herself up, turning her head around, her eyes frantically searching for the yokai. She raised her arm and blinked. The bandage had torn, revealing her burn scar that seemed to glow, and she felt a burning sensation, and she winced. She tossed away the bandage and fell to her knees, crying for her mother, and for Michi, and for her current predicament. And it wasn't long until she realized that her cries were intermingled with those of a baby. She wiped her tears and looked around. Behind the rocks, she spotted a woman with long, wet hair, cradling a white bundle in her arms. The sounds appeared to be coming from the bundle.
Please don't cry. Shh. Please don't. I love you so much.
Kana wiped her face and got to her feet. Slowly, she walked towards the woman.
Hello? Is everything all right?
The woman turned her head and Kana saw the desperation in the woman's eyes.
Oh, thank goodness. I could really use your help.
Kana nodded.
I don't know if I can. I fell in the river, and I'm all wet. My baby will fall sick if I keep holding it. I have a change of clothes, but my baby's being fussy. Could you please hold it, just for a few minutes? Please?
Kana could see how desperate the woman looked and moved forward with her arms outstretched. The woman gave her the bundle, and to Kana's surprise, the baby stopped crying immediately.
She must really like you, the woman said with a smile. Just give me a moment, please. I'll be done soon.
Kana turned around so that the woman could have some privacy as she changed her clothes. She peered down at the bundle and frowned. Somehow the baby had gotten heavier in her arms. I'm almost done, the woman called out in a mellifluous tone. Kana felt a strain in her arms. Something was wrong. She was either becoming weaker or the baby had somehow gotten heavier. She tried to shift the baby to get a better grip and realized she couldn't move her arms properly. I need help, Kana said, but the woman didn't respond. Kana pulled the sheet off the baby's head and gasped. There was no baby. It was a boulder that was growing larger in her arms. She tried to move and put it down, but the boulder wouldn't move. Help, Kana called out. The woman still didn't turn around. Kana tried to move her arms and even lower herself, but she couldn't. She was frozen on the spot. Help! She screamed and looked frantically for the old man. He was nowhere in sight, and she remembered leaving him at the house. No doubt his particular form refrained him from following her at a quick pace. Kana kept screaming for help, but there was no one else at the riverbanks. The woman finally turned and exposed her fiendish grin. In a matter of seconds, she had slithered to her and rose above her. Hello, Kana. I have heard about you. You may have escaped hell, but you will not escape me. To her horror, Kana realized the yokai's snake-like form. She began to wrap her body around Kana and then opened her mouth to stick out her forked tongue. Kana opened her mouth, but no scream came. It was pointless now. She was trapped, and escape was impossible. She could see her death in the yokai's eyes. She held her breath, expecting to be ingested in one swallow, when suddenly there was a squishing sound as if the air had been cut. The yokai let out a painful cry before her head fell forward and detached from the body. Kana immediately fell to the ground. The bundle was weightless now. The yokai's head rolled away from her as the body collapsed, scattering mud all around. Kana looked up to see a man before her. His face was covered with a grey scarf. He wore a black and grey uniform and held a long sword splattered with fresh, dark blood. Kana let out a cry as the man approached her, his sword raised in the air. Kana thought she had survived the longest night of her life. She had survived an attack from her father, from the Hachishaku-sama, another yokai whose name escaped her, and then this yokai who was about to strangle her and eat her whole. She'd been saved, but now it seemed her time to die had come again. She yelped when the sword swung close to her face, and the stranger planted the sword in the soft mud before her and knelt. Kana looked at the blade and saw it was a katana with ancient symbols engraved on them. The stranger let a finger glide over her hand. Kana was almost surprised by his gentle touch before he pressed his fingers painfully on her scar. She cried out, and he immediately retracted his hand. "It is real. I've only heard about this until now. I didn't think it could be real." Kana pushed herself up and let out a breath. She gazed down to where his stare was fixated and realized his grey eyes were studying her scar. She quickly scrambled backwards, wondering if he was another yokai. She wondered how many yokai could take on human forms. The man's eyes glittered with amusement at her reaction. "If I had wanted to hurt you, you would not have been able to move away from me. Who are you?" The man stood as she heard him scoff. "The better question is, who are you?" There was a thunking clank sound and then a bellow. "Stay away from her!" Kana turned to see the old man hopping towards her. The stranger pointed his katana at him. "And what is this abomination?" The old man glared at him. "You would do better to stay away from the both of us." You know this thing?" the stranger addressed Kana. Kana finally got to her feet and dusted herself off. She said nothing as she stood closer to the old man. "Just what are you? You aren't a yokai, that much I can deduce." "Toshihiro," the old man replied. Kana looked down at him. She had spent all this time with him, and only now had learnt his name. "Do your friends call you Toshi?" the stranger taunted. "Do you care to introduce yourself?" Toshihiro spoke sharply. "I'm the man who saved her life." When Toshihiro looked inquiringly at Kana, she told him all about her encounter with a yokai who had tricked her with a baby, and he glanced at the corpse of the creature with disgust. "A Nureona," Toshihiro replied. "Strange. She's never been seen before in this part of the country." She was attracted to that. The stranger gestured to Kana's scar with his katana. "You need to put that away, especially in the presence of a young woman, or have you no manners?" The stranger laughed. "Manners are presented in front of respectable people, not those who have sinned and escaped from hell." Kana was stunned and took a step back. "You seem to know a lot about things you shouldn't know about." When you find yourself alone in the world and realize you only have yourself to depend on, you learn a lot of things quickly. Toshihiro glanced at him and his attire. "You don't belong in these parts. Where have you come from?" The stranger shrugged. "That doesn't matter. What is important is my destination. I'm heading to a town across the river." "As are we," Toshihiro replied. Kana looked at him with surprise but kept her silence. She had no one to guide her except for Toshihiro, and it was safer to do as he said. "I don't mind a little company while I travel. I have a boat ready." "I thought you didn't find me respectable. Then why help me?" Kana asked. "And now she speaks. Was beginning to wonder if you were mute," he bowed. "My apologies if I offended you. I would like to make amends by helping you travel across the river." Kana glanced at Toshihiro, who nodded. She nodded at the stranger. "You haven't told me your name." "Ren." He bowed again. Kana bowed her head and then walked towards the boat he gestured to. Ren watched Kana get into the boat and then help her companion in. He smiled to himself as he sheathed his katana. Then he crept to where the corpse of the Nure Onna lay. He knelt and removed a vial from his pocket and filled it up with the dark blood of the yokai. He capped the vial and then pocketed it. Glancing backward, he smirked as he watched Kana waiting in the boat. His quest had just gotten easier.